Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. As usual, let me get my volume bumped up here. There we go. I hope you're all doing well. Hey, Bob came with a drone, so we made a little movie. Well, there you go. Quite a place I live, eh? It's and that was just sort of like the community that you saw. So most of the footage was sort of facing down the mountain. And but that's the Earthbag complex. I've never seen it from above before, except Google Maps. But I mean, what a drone brings is a completely different thing altogether. So I was pretty happy about that. Well, I want to start today's show just with a little bit of an admonition of sorts. An admonition is, what is an admonition? I want to look that up. It's a good word. Admonition definition. An act or action of admonishing, authoritative counsel, or warning. The old judge's admonition to the jury on this point was particularly weighty. That's the example they give. I don't think it's an admonition. Just let's call it just some friendly counsel. You know, as we watch this world just become increasingly unstitched, which is the natural process, and we're going to have to go through this, okay? There's no turning this around now. There's been no turning it around since about 9/11. This has been like a very, very well thought out plan, and they're executing it now. Now, ultimately, they're not going to win, but they're going to make no mistake about it. You know, they're going to do a lot of damage, and what we're concerned about is getting through a time like this and deriving spiritual benefit from it. Okay, because you should be deriving spiritual benefit from everything you go through in life, including your illnesses. Okay, because everything is spiritual. Everything is happening for a reason. There's no random down here. None whatsoever. Absolutely no random down here whatsoever. So get that idea completely out of your mind. There's nothing random down here. Now, that doesn't mean that you should go around and trying to hack it and trying to figure out what tomorrow's going to bring and, you know, all the occult stuff people do to try and hack and control this reality and benefit themselves. The reality is already set up to benefit you. It's set up to benefit you spiritually. This is a constructed reality, and it's not hijacked. Okay? This Gnostic nonsense has gone too far. Okay? And all of this very negative stuff, in my opinion, it's just gone way too far. This is a functioning reality which, when engaged properly, yields spiritual benefit, yields spiritual dividends. If you have the right heart, or right disposition, and the right attitude, you're going to grow spiritually when you're here. So the question becomes, why are so few people growing spiritually while they're here? And that is a slightly cynical thing to say, but it is true. There's not a whole lot of spiritual growth in the human race. There's technological growth, there's certain mental accomplishments, there's a very clear trajectory of invention and manifestation. That's, of course, coming out of the cabal, the secret societies, and they're fairly disciplined in what they want to do. So it looks like there's something going on here, and it looks evolutionary, but it isn't. The only evolution that matters down here is spiritual evolution. That's it. The spiritual evolution of the individuals here. That's all that matters. Okay? Everything here is growing spiritually. The insects are growing. The animals are growing. The fish are growing. The trees are growing. The plants are growing. Everything here is growing. Everything here is growing in an eternal sense, growing towards a conscious particulate of the divine. That's the reality down here. Whether you can see it or not is not my concern. Okay? It is a reality down here. Okay? So the idea that we live in some kind of negative environment is completely untrue. Are we going through a negative time? Well, if your valuation of life is one of, predictability and something that allows you the illusion of mastery or control over these circumstances, then yeah, we're going through a very negative time. Because all of the indicators of control are false. You've been completely lied to, and they're pulling the rug out from under your feet now. And here I'm talking about the Western society they set up after World War II. They're shutting that whole enterprise down now, the prosperous West. Okay? Now you may say, well, Bruce, who could do this? Who has the power to do this? Well, I don't know. I really don't care who they are. Doesn't matter. They are accountable for what they're doing, and everything in this reality is accountable. And so who they are and why they're doing it, or it's not something I lose a lot of sleep over, to be honest. Okay, it's just not something that I'm going to fret over too much. We have indications of who they might be, but who cares? What are you going to do? I mean, if I gave you a complete list of all the people doing this, what would you do? What are you going to do? Start a YouTube channel and try to invoke citizens' arrests? There's nothing you can do. Okay? Which brings me to my point. Sometimes in life, it's very beneficial to operate in the exact opposite way of your time. Okay? And this is one of those times. Now, this is the opposite of the Sabbatean system, which operates in a negative way in a positive time. My system operates in a positive way in a negative time. Okay? And it's like, think of it like a spiritual investment. Like any other investment you make, there are times to invest, there are times to load in, where you're going to reap the maximum reward on your investment, right? This is one of those times for people who want to grow spiritually. You can make significant growth now if you truly commit, and you truly commit to being good. And the root of all things is goodness in spiritual growth. The root of all things is goodness, okay? So you want to be good. That's what you're aiming for. You're aiming to be good. So what does it mean to be good in a time of chaos and diminishing resources, or the perception of diminishing resources and the perception of chaos? Because I'm not even sure that those things are really real. They're all manufactured. You can just see them all lining up now. Prime Minister of Australia, Prime Minister of Canada. I'm starting to think Trump's even in on it now. I mean, which would mean we never really had a chance to get out of this, which is fine. Well, you still have a chance. Your chance is to go it alone. Okay, to leave the decrepit system behind that's trying to kill you and your family and go it alone somewhere in the world. But I'm not even sure there's time for that left. I think things are going to start happening very, very rapidly now that the plan they have in motion is just going to start unfolding at uncannily swift now. Okay, and it's going to come on every front. It's going to come on it's going to come in your personal health. It's going to come in your finances. It's going to come in the stability you thought you had. Okay, because there's no more stability. It's all going away there, especially in the first world. This is why they're flooding it with immigrants, and this is why, like, I got a direct message on LinkedIn the other day. I'll read it to you. I couldn't believe this. LinkedIn. So this is how, and this is, come on. Yeah, I just want to go to LinkedIn, man. Gives me like 30 pages of what is LinkedIn? What is LinkedIn used for? Just go to LinkedIn, man. Okay. LinkedIn. Oh, there we go. That worked out quite a bit better. Yeah, no, I don't want to reactivate premium. Thank you. Okay. So this was a direct, for those of you who have LinkedIn, this was a direct message, okay, in the email or messaging system inside of LinkedIn. It was from somebody named Minna Demian. Hi, Bruce. 95% of writers don't know Canada's new family rules let you bring parents, kids with zero extra fees. Why our 97% success? Dual approval system, PR plus sponsorship concurrently. 28,000 a year tax benefits, family social advantages. Priority processing, skip 24-month queues. Secure your family's Canadian dream today. PS government fee increases August 1st. Lock your current rate. So some moronic algorithm targeted me as a successful candidate to sell immigration to Canada. Because on LinkedIn it says that I live in Costa Rica. You believe that? And I'm telling you, like when you're on Facebook and the social media over here, it is just inundated with advertisements for emigrating to Canada. It's like I don't know, it's like the 1970s. You can't believe it. Like, go to Canada, go to Canada, go to Canada, go to Canada. Now, those of you who know what's going on in Canada may ask yourself, well, why would they be doing this? Why would they be exacerbating a housing crisis with more immigration? Because the goal is to collapse the system. If you want a floor to fall in, find out what its load-bearing weight is and put too many people on it and have them jump up and down, and the floor will collapse. And that's what's going on now. It's literally no more complicated than that. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. Now, what force on earth has judged us, has adjudicated us unfit to go forward and unfit to live? And here I'm talking primarily about, there's two main target groups here, okay? And not many people put this together because there's another program running that tries to keep these two groups antagonistic, but they would be a formidable force if they realized how much they had in common, and that is the black and the white people in North America. They're both targeted for defilement and decimation. Okay? And that is what's going on. Your government does not care about you. Nobody cares about you, okay? Get this idea that you have, and then I see people running around doing YouTube videos. What are we going to do? Well, I mean, that might have been relevant 20 years ago. It's too late now. There's only one thing to do, and that is to get someplace safe now. Because this negativity is going to escalate and escalate and escalate. It's going to manifest in street violence. It's going to manifest in social disorder, looting, all kinds of things, okay? They have literally decided that they are going to wipe out what they consider to be an entitled group of people on the planet, which are white, Christian, although they're not Christians anymore. I mean, these people do not practice the Christian faith, but culturally they're Christian, okay? They have literally decided that they're going to wipe these people out. This is an active genocide going on now. And nobody's really... And by the way, if you're a white Westerner listening to me, I can tell you most people have figured this out. Like most non-white people. It's easier for them to see because they're not the victim. They don't have to fight a bunch of censorship in their brain that's going, this isn't happening, this isn't happening, this isn't happening. So they actually see it quite clearly. All those Indians on the streets of small towns and big cities in Canada, they know what's going on. They're not stupid. They know they've been brought there to replace the indigenous population. Their thinking is, this is finally their comeuppance for the trillions of dollars that the British Empire stole from them in the 1700s and 1800s. Okay? It's a very sore point with the Indian people. Do you know that when the British went into India, India accounted for about a quarter of the global economy? They were one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Okay? They had fine fabrics, they had good food, they had spices, it was a very, very evolved, pre-technological, but nonetheless a profoundly evolved society in terms of reading and writing and sharing manuscripts and a very, very learned people, okay? And highly functional civilization. And our technology and our way of life going in there and mixing with them has just made them something much uglier. All right, so what is going on? Well, I'll tell you where you're at now, and this is the title of today's podcast. You're in the defilement phase, okay? So to understand that, you have to understand the word defile, so I've actually pre-prepared this. So the word defilement comes from the verb defile, which has a very fascinating etymological journey. Number one, it's from the Old French defouleur, D-E-F-O-U-L-E-R. For those of you who are Canadian and who listen to me, you might be able to pronounce a little bit of French. Defouleur, to trample down and violate, is what it means. And this is the primary root. Defouler literally meant to trample underfoot. And from this came the sense of ill-treating or dishonoring. It's composed of the prefix de, which means down, and fouler, which means to tread, which comes from vulgar Latin, which is fular, to clean cloth by stamping on it, as a fuller does. So the very act of cleaning cloth by treading on it eventually gave rise to a word meaning the opposite, to make something impure. And then number two, we get the influence of Middle English. Filen, F-I-L-E-N, to make foul, unclean, filen. Over time, defoulen in English was influenced by the existing Middle English verb filen, to render foul, make unclean or impure. And this filen comes from Old English filan, to defile or make foul, which is related to the word foul, rotten or unclean. And this convergence reinforced the meaning of impurity. Okay, so to defile something. So defile came to mean to desecrate, to profane, to make foul or dirty, and also historically to rape or deflower. The noun defilement emerged later in the 1750s from the verb defile plus the suffix ment, which forms nouns indicating the result or product of an action. So when you defile something, it is defilement. So what does it mean today, and why am I talking about this? Because you're being trampled underfoot. You're being defiled now, okay? You're being defiled, and that's why there's so many crazy people out there, you know? Like all the Karens and stuff. I mean, at their core, whether they get the circumstance of what's going on correctly or not, they're fundamentally right. And remember, I have spoken to you folks a number of times about the principle of catharsis. We have these systems inside us. They work autonomously. You don't really have to know how they work. It's better if you do know a little bit about how they work, or in some instances a lot, like the yogis, understanding the nervous systems and things like this. But we're all kind of naturally intuitive. It's because we're spiritual beings. We're spirits living in flesh. Even though we forgot that, our system knows it because it knows what it is. It's just this stupid ego that doesn't know what's going on. That's it. Okay? So the system is always working, and people will call it their intuition. They'll call it, some people, the psychic. It's psychic. It's psychic. Psychic is a very negative energy. It's never, ever, ever seek to expand or groom or inculcate or grow your psychic ability. It is counterproductive to the spiritual person. It is not the same thing as intuition. Intuition, when it is guided by a properly spiritually centered character, has filters built in that will not violate the privacy of other people or the privacy of the timeline, because there are rules here. and we are supposed to live by the rules. Remember, go back to the beginning of the podcast. The Creator set this up for us to learn, not to hack, not to take it apart like a bunch of clock elves, not to go to the jungle and do ayahuasca and try and deconstruct it that way, but to live in it and learn from it and grow spiritually to the point that you realize you transcend it. Okay? And realizing it in a natural process is extremely important. And if you're looking around the world now at the so-called spiritual teachers out there, you'll notice that what I'm saying is particularly salient now. There's a lot of psychic people masquerading as spiritual teachers, but they're not the same thing at all. Psychic is not even close to the same. In fact, in many ways, it's the opposite of spiritual. But to the ignorant, who just lives at the sense-mind level, who doesn't have any deep experience with intuition, divine intuition, awakened imagination, and as I've spent so much time explaining, these psychics come along and they've got, some chakra work done. They've done some psychic tinkering, maybe through secret societies, maybe individually. They got into some system of occult growth, Wiccanism, or and by the way, I'm not doing the old Christian thing here, burn the witch. My philosophy is one of free will. Ultimately, I recommend you don't do those things, but I also recognize you have the right to do those things and pay whatever karmic cost is incurred from tinkering with those things. So if you want to do it and it's a learning cycle for you, then do it. Okay? I have Wiccan friends. I have witch friends. Okay? They know how I feel. I say, they know how I feel. But, that's how I feel about it. So, so these things just sort of have to be left on their own. Where was I going with this? This system we live within, okay? So our system, our intuitive system, is telling us we're in danger. And that's why you're getting all this crazy behavior on TikTok and X and all of these things, okay? Because people they're fundamental. We laugh at them. Oh, look at that Karen, or look at that. And but they're correct. It's just, it's too little too late. And then you get inevitably what you get is the indignant white person who's used to having their protection, their security, and their property respected. And that's no longer the case anymore, except in certain very privileged communities. This is being done on purpose. And you say, well, what about certain other groups, Bruce? Well, that's why the rabbis are telling them to make aliyah to Israel. Okay, now, so you can see the whole plan coming into place now, okay? The Greater Israel Project and simultaneously the collapse of the West, okay? And this has all been done through magic, through usury, and through very, very nefarious means. And ultimately, it's not going to win. I will keep repeating that. Ultimately, it's not going to win. Okay? We're not done yet. We got a ways to go yet. Probably another decade of my life before you're going to start to see the sunrise on this craziness. But the best thing you could do for yourself now is get to a safe and independent place where you have pretty much everything you need. Okay? So, the stage you're in now in the West is defilement. Okay? And it's a time of vainglorious and egotistical pride for other small-minded people who have not figured out yet that they're just a stepping stone they're being used, and when their service is fulfilled, they'll be wiped out as easily as white Western culture. So if you're a Middle Eastern Muslim or an African or some other ethnicity that's profiting from this, and you're flooding into the West now, and you're getting the free money, and you can't believe what's going on. You're going, wow, this is like paradise. They're giving me everything, and I have free housing. I have a monthly stipend. I'm selling hash on the side and making another $3,000. This is like heaven, man. Realize if they can take us out, the white Western people, they can take anybody out. And they're taking us out first as an oppositional force on the global stage because we're the most serious threat to the Kabbalistic Masonic agenda. Okay? And that's what this is. It's a Kabbalistic Masonic agenda. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see it at this point, right? So it's not just the Greater Israel Project. Commiserate with the Greater Israel Project is the collapse, first the defilement, and then the decimation of Israel's long-standing enemies. Okay? Amalek, Edom, all of these crazy names the rabbis have. Now, the rabbis are completely satanic at this point. I use the word satanic in a Talamanca review way. I'm not talking like a Christian. They think they're in control. They're being gamed as well. Okay? They're being gamed as well. And they're being gamed in a way where their fate is going to be extremely disturbing. And I don't mean just what happens to them when they're physically alive. I mean the next phase when they're no longer physically alive. The rabbis and the Kabbalists have made very dark alliances. Those alliances have seeped into their culture epigenetically over many generations, at least 1,000 years, maybe longer. And there's no getting out for them. Okay? So there's no winner in this. There's the drama. There's the 3D drama. Okay? And that's what we're living now. The 3D drama. And in the present 3D drama, it looks like, wow, this is a pretty bad time to be a white Western European coming off of Christian heritage. Are we really this evil? Do we deserve all of this? No, we're really not that evil. I mean, certain Western institutions deserve it, but what they're doing is the old Jewish trick of scapegoating their own people, just like the dark rabbinical circles working with the controllers of the planet scapegoated all those Jews in World War II. No, I'm not recanting what I said about the Holocaust, but the Jews were very ill-treated and rounded up and put into concentration camps. The twins were experimented upon, and it was an tremendous indignity. And that was done by chosen people to chosen people. Okay? So it's not about religion. It's not about, anything like that. There's something else going on here, okay? And they're not even really religions. I mean, go back and watch the Abrahamic skullduggery. Or if you really want to be thorough on this topic, go back and redo all your Jordan Peterson. Jordan Maxwell. I can't believe that slip. Peterson, Maxwell. They're opposite ends of the spectrum. Jordan Maxwell will explain it all to you. But this is... I'll give you my take very openly and honestly, okay? I think this is an attempted reptilian takeover of the planet. And it's very interesting that David Icke was able to get the reptilian message into the public mind 30 years ago, but maybe it was too early. Because the system is so smart now, it can adapt and remediate consciousness in 6 or 7 months. Very, very quickly. Look at how cognitively impaired people are now. And you may wonder why that is. Well, it's all the screens we look at every day. Okay? I'd be the same way if I didn't do an intense amount of internal work. Okay? It's just the way it is. You're not going to survive opening your mind to this blue light technology, sitting in front of a screen all day, whether it be your phone, a tablet, a computer, or a big television. It's constantly programming you. Constantly programming you. Okay? And one of the great natural programs in human beings is to fit into the tribe. So very few people will represent discordant or outrageous ideas in public. David Icke did, and, all the power to him. He was ridiculed by the British establishment, but really he didn't change that much. In fact, he, rather than slow it down, he may have sped it up, actually. But I think we're in the midst of a reptilian takeover. And there's reasons I say that. I mean, maybe I could do a whole show about it at some point. I don't know. It's not today, though. So the stage of the program we're in now is defilement. Okay? So today, the defilement generally refers to the act of making something dirty, foul, or unclean. And this can be in a physical sense, though it's often used with a stronger implication than just dirtying. So we're being made to look unclean and spiritually unclean. We're being made to look like wicked people. And the message is being targeted at a group that is operating at about 80 to 95 IQ. Okay, basically just a little bit beyond morons. Okay? And there's money being seeded into this idea. A lot of it is coming out of our academic institutions, which have been, the Ivy League institutions in Canada have been part of the cabal since the beginning. They were set up right from the Dutch Satanism that was an early part of the migration to the Americas. A lot of the Satanism in America in its first generation was brought over by the Dutch. Okay? And if you want to know why, go back and read the Worshipful Fuelers chapter in The Light of Darkness and look at who was in Amsterdam at that time and the Bank of England, and you'll figure it all out. Okay? I don't want to become repeating myself all the time like a moron. It's not complicated. It's not a conspiracy anymore. It's as apparent as weather now. Anybody who can't see it now just doesn't want to see it. Okay? They just don't want to see it. So we're being told that we are an unclean people, a spiritually impure people, people who take too much, people who take more than others, people who don't want to share. Now, I think generally speaking that I'm going to have a moment of racial pride here. I think that the white race is probably the best race that's ever existed on this planet. The average white person. I'm not talking about the Kabbalists and the Masons, okay? They're a completely separate class of people. Just like when you go to African countries, the evil witch doctor doesn't represent all Africans. The Africans are as terrified of that person as we are, And it's the same thing in our culture. And what we have going on here are the powerful trying to scapegoat us. They're offering us up to satisfy the need for vengeance on the people who've been told and instructed at their 85 IQ that they were maligned by white people, and here's some white people to kick around on the street and maybe kill. And if you want to crack their head open, nobody's really going to prosecute you for murder. Watch what we do with the court systems over here. You can stab them now, you can kill them, you can rape the women, don't worry about anything. And this is all being tacitly understood by the 85 to 95 IQ class. Because you don't have to be a genius to pick things up, right? It's not rocket science. We can fuck white people up now? I can go rape white women now? I'm not going to, look at what's going on in England. Look at what Tommy Robinson's been talking about, right? This is the defilement. And it's being done by the political class. It's being done by the catamite Starmer, right? The child prostitute himself, probably the sexually abused little boy who appears in photographs at the age of 7 or 8 with Jimmy Savile and Prince Charles. Yes, that's the same guy, Starmer, who's the Prime Minister of Britain right now. You got Mark Carney, who's an insider to the core. Insider to the core. And so it's all insider politics now. And I'm starting to wonder if Trump is even outside, and maybe he was just a different kind of insider they had to create to deal with the American population. But this is the world we live in, okay? And there's still places you can go. There's still things you can do. It's not over, but I mean, if you just stand in place, you're not gonna do very well at this point. You have to make a decision. I mean, unless you're over 75, you have no excuse. Because, you could do something. If you're 75 or under and you have 500 to $1 million in assets in Australian or Canadian or US dollars, any one of those three currencies, or British pounds, you could easily go set up a life for yourself and live like a human being. But you'd have to live. And you see, the problem is most people can't leave the system now. They're dependent on it. Those cords that went into the human batteries in the Matrix, most people have them. They're invisible. They're psychic, and they can't get out of them now. They can't get out. They're just too used to the way they live, and they can't change. They can't get out of this way of living, so they're not going to change. Okay? So continuing on with defilement and what it means today, the act of corrupting the purity or perfection of something. And so the purity and perfection, it was never perfect, Western society, let's be honest, but let me point out a few things to let you know why I think we're amongst the best people in the world. There's never been another group of people on the planet who, once they have a system of slavery, have voluntarily let it go. Okay? If they've let it go, an outside system has come in and torn it apart for them. Internally, they didn't have the moral resolve or the internal moral conflict among their people to make this change. They didn't have it. Okay? We did. We ended it in America. Okay? And that's quite an accomplishment. Okay? Probably some of the oldest slaving peoples in the world, like the Arab world, has been enslaving people for a long, long time. Okay, and it's so easy to use these Abrahamic systems. It's so they were literally created for third-party forces to come in and control human populations. That's how effective they are with their mind control. Okay? And it just creates this vicious circle where for 1 or 2 centuries, one group is up, then they become the slaves, then they're the slaveholders again, and everyone's, my God is greater than your God. My God, it's just fucking a shit show. Okay, so we're having the purity of our Western society is being defiled now. And so this extends to abstract concepts or qualities, okay? So many argued that the commercialization of the holiday led to its defilement. So we don't have any religious culture anymore. It's all been defiled. Hollywood started doing that, I mean, even Miracle on 34th Street, it's defilement. I know you might love that movie. Watch it very closely and try to figure out what's going on, okay? And the commercialization, I mean, they don't commercialize high holy holidays in Judaism or Islam. Okay, I mean, there may be some religious profiting around it, like the mosques may sell something and make some money, but that's almost the equivalent of throwing something in the basket at a Christian service, right? But we defiled our holidays, right? Okay, and a lot of this stuff, as I go through it, you'll see this at every stage of the process. An, Something was proffered and then it was accepted. It's not being forced on us. There's nobody who can stand up and say, "Oh my God, evil people have come in and destroyed the West." Nope. No. It was a series of temptations. It was a series of transformations over 3 generations that have brought us to complete and total moral decay, to the point where girls don't know their girls, boys don't know their boys, people don't know what a family is, people don't know what a mother is, people don't know what a father is, people don't know what government is supposed to do for you. Everything is lost now. And a lot of it we did to ourselves. Okay? So, the violation of chastity or purity, especially of a person. So, this refers to sexual assault or defilement, though other terms are more commonly used for sexual offenses today. The allegations involved the defilement of children. Well, we see that going on. There's another thing. Our children are being defiled. Or if not our children, children in our society are being defiled. Let me ask you something. Because I've been thinking about this a lot, because of where I live and because of a very interesting podcast, the second last Sean Ryan podcast, where he does a 2-hour interview with the young woman who is a journalist focusing on Mexican cartels. You should watch it. It's very interesting what she has to say. So, did the cartels destroy America? Mm-hmm. Did human traffickers destroy America? Ask yourself those questions. Those 2 questions. Did the cartels and cocaine have an ambition to destroy America? Did the human traffickers and the child traffickers have the ambition of defiling America? No. They had the ambition of making money. So here's the question. If you want to understand what's wrong with America, answer this question. Why is there so much demand for these things? Why are so many children needed in the United States that the entirety of Central America would send up practically an entire generation of children below 10, plus throw some Mexican children into that as well? Why? Who's consuming all these children? Have you ever sat and done the math? I mean, assuming it's all true and we're not being gamed, and I think it's largely true because I trust the sources. I trust people like Michael Yon. I trust the sources, okay? This is not a psyop. This is actual information. Why is there such a desire for cocaine in Western Europe and North America? Why is the cartel the bad guy and the idiot lawyer who knows it's illegal but he can get off it in court habitually uses cocaine at his parties in New York or Toronto or Los Angeles? Why is that guy not going to jail for 5 years? Because the habit he has and the indulgence he has, which violates the law, is attended by so much violence. Why aren't we treating him more harshly? Okay? Why are the human... Why is Trump focusing... when he talks about protecting Americans, it seems to me like Americans don't want to protect themselves. That's why they're living in tent cities in major metropolitan areas. Same thing in Canada. Okay, so who exactly is he protecting? Why protect people who don't even want to live, whose own fatalism has reached a point their only reason for waking up in a tent every day is to get high and sell their ass, to get money to buy more drugs, so the cartels can keep punting it over the border? You tell me, what sense does that make? Is it even possible at this point, given the avarice for negative consumption in the North American appetites, America and Canada, are they even salvable societies anymore? Can they be saved? And you know, at least when Bukele cleaned up El Salvador, Salvadorian society had not been decimated. It had legitimately been preyed upon. But the people were still good. There was something to save there. And as soon as he took out MS-13 and Mara Lucha 13 and the other 18th Street gang, the businesses, everything started to flourish again because the people were good. Where are the good people in North America? So the defilement begins with self-defilement. Okay? And the liberalism that attended it. All right? Oh, they're just drug addicts. We need to help them. Fuck that shit. Why are we spending billions of dollars on these fucking people? If they want to kill themselves, speed up the process. Let more fentanyl in. They're doing us a favor. We're overpopulated. They're self-depopulating. Oh, I know. I sound like a monster. But the liberal solution is to come in with solutions that don't work and charge you hundreds of billions of dollars for them with 3 cents on every dollar, actually maybe 3 cents on every dollar, actually making it to the problem, and the rest of it going into Pelosi's pockets, Newsom's pockets, and people like this. So at some point, you're gonna have to accept the hard reality that this situation is so far gone that radical measures are needed. Radical measures are needed. Okay? Because there's no pulling it back gently now. There's no saving this situation now in any kind of stupid or facile way. It can't be done. Cannot be done. Hard truths today, folks. Coming out punching. Should I just finish? Okay. So in general usage, defilement implies a strong moral or ethical condemnation of the act, suggesting that something valuable, pure, or sacred has been spoiled or disgraced. How it was used traditionally in religions. We'll leave that alone. So we're being defiled. Okay? The Kabbalists and the Masons are defiling us now. The secret societies and the dark entities they work with are defiling us now. This is what's going on. And your only remedy is spiritual sovereignty, and that means standing in your truth as a living being. And practicing as much love as possible. Real love. Okay? Real love. You know? But these liberal politicians have to go away because they're not helping anything. And nothing is going to change. So that's my show today on defilement. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.